Welcome back to the Act Two podcast, a podcast for the real-life working screenwriter. I'm Tasha Hugh.
And I am Josh Hallman.
Still pounding that coffee, I see.
All day, every day, forever.
12 p.m. Don't care. Here's my favorite thing, though. It's like pounding coffee, and then when I saw you, was it last night? It was like pounding magnesium drinks.
You know, the solution to this is me just drinking water. Like, the worst part is I know the answer to all of my problems. I drink too much coffee throughout the day, then I'm wired, and then I drink like recess magnesium drinks at night to kind of calm down. I know the answer, but I just like drinking these other things.
The answer is just hydration and sleep.
Yeah, that's it.
Good.
And both of which I hydrate in various ways. Anyway, The intro.
We are Act Two, a network and support group for the everyday working screenwriter, of which this podcast is just one of the things that we do. Check out our Patreon if you want more things, you want more community. We do stuff there, and we announce stuff there that we don't talk about on the podcast, which is really because we're bad podcast hosts. But it's a really cool community, and you get access to a chat room where A, it's a bunch of other screenwriters, but B, we're also in there, and we say hi, we pop in, we talk about things. But let's just say you hate doing fun things. You can also subscribe to the podcast. That's not fun. And rate us, write a comment, tell us, I don't know, how your pitching is going. You can also DM us with questions and topic suggestions, or if you just want to say hi, at ActTwoWriters@gmail.com, all spelled out, or on our Instagram and Twitter at ActTwoWriters. I'm Story Thursday on Instagram and Tasha 3.0 on Twitter.
I'm Joshua Hallman on Twitter, Josh Hallman on Instagram. A couple things real quick.
Yes, Josh.
Number one, I love that we're just defiantly going with Twitter. We're not calling it X. You were on a blue sky kick for a minute.
I was. This is dropped.
And then number two, the ratings and all that stuff really helps the podcast. And it helps us. I've been meaning to tell you, Tasha, I don't know if you know this. You know I like to monitor these things. Mm-hmm. Did you know? And I'm almost reluctant to say this because I don't want to encourage anybody. We finally got a 1-star rating on our podcast.
Was there a comment behind it?
No, there was no comment.
Do you have any enemies?
Do you?
Probably.
Yeah, so it does help.
And it hurts, apparently, because it does hurt.
It's not that I'm thinking about it, throughout the day. Not like I've been wanting to tell you this for a couple of days or anything.
No.
No, it's not happening.
This really segues well into my This Week in Writing.
Let's go.
This Week in Writing.
Josh, you know, because I can't stop texting you about it, but we've not talked about it. I mentioned on the podcast that I got a note from my manager that I was a boring writer, and it's okay, to be clear, she didn't say I was a boring writer, but this is the This Week in Writing, because that's what I hear. What she said was the second act of my document was a little boring, and that she didn't want me to send it because she didn't want people to think that there was bad writing. And this has been festering now for how long, Josh? Like weeks? 2 weeks?
It's been a little bit.
I am in such a low. I texted Josh earlier this week that I want to quit and open a pub. At least a pub for writers, so it's like tangential to what I'm doing now. But I'm like, and I realized it's because of this note.
Wait, opening a pub is tangential?
Because it's for writers. It's a pub for writers.
I can't even say the word tangent. Jesus. Okay, keep going.
It's because of this note. It's been festering, and I've lost confidence that I am in any way a talented writer. I feel like maybe I've just been lucky this whole time.
May I chime in?
Yeah.
Okay. That is not true. You are a good writer. I would like you to open a pub, but not quite yet.
Maybe I can later.
Maybe we can do both at the same time. You can open this pub, I can drink from the pub, and then tell you you're a good writer. And then you can continue writing.
That sounds lovely.
But this is a good thing because let's unpack this a little bit. So she basically made a comment about your Act 2 and said that it was a little boring. And then you took that and said, this is a direct reflection on me. I am a boring writer.
Yeah.
Because it's a boring Act 2.
Yeah, and that maybe I can't write act twos. And maybe, because act twos are my weakness. It is where I struggle the most. So maybe that struggle is actually the struggle. It's like the thing preventing me from, Game of Thrones type level work.
I disagree. Because what exactly would a boring writer even be? Like, what are you going to write?
Apparently.
Write a couple pages of characters watching paint dry? That's a boring writer.
So this is an action movie that I was writing with a character who has a particular set of skills. And she said that Act 2 just felt like something she would do, like something an everyday person would do. The steps that this character takes are just things that she would do. She's like, they're not bad. They make logical sense, but it's something that I would do. It's not something that someone with this particular set of skills would do, which is what's going to make the movie interesting. And I was just like, oh God, I'm not smart. I don't know how to, this character's smarter than me and I don't know how to do that.
Well, these are the stories we tell ourselves. But it is not true. This is that voice inside of your head that's going to try to beat you up, and it tries to beat everybody up. And this is the voice that deters people from writing a spec, from moving to Los Angeles, from doing something that they love to do. They just listen to the fucking voice because it becomes the truth when it's not. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, 5 years have passed and you didn't do what you wanted to do, or you convinced yourself that you suck because of this voice that's making shit up, and then you regret it, and you learn that voice was wrong the entire time. It was just some weird insecurity that was festering.
That really helps me.
It's wrong. Kick that little voice's ass. Tell it to go shut up.
Fuck that voice. Shut up, mini Tasha.
Put little Tasha over in the corner, fucking close the door, bury her underground, and tell her to enjoy suffocating because she's dead now. You need other... that was a little morbid. You need to just not listen to that. But this is a very common thing.
This is why I brought it up, because I went through our Act 2 Gmail inbox today, and I reread an email from a listener who wrote back to us about our self-talk episode and how positive self-talk is so important because negative self-talk is so dangerous. And he was just saying that episode came at a really important time for him because he was having one of those moments that we all have, that I'm having now. And it really helped him realize, A, he's not alone, that this little voice was something he could shut up with positive stuff. And I read that and I was like, I need to remember our own advice, I guess, is what. And so that's why I wanted to bring it up again. And you're so right. You're so right about people not doing things and then looking back 5 years later because that little voice won. And then another piece is that I was like, fuck this little voice. The thing we always talk about is stick-to-itiveness. And so if my problem is Act 2s and I think my Act 2 is the problem, then start working on my Act 2s. Just start working on it. And then I'll be active and I'll be writing again.
Yeah, we're going to figure it out if we have to. I'll be here to spitball, but I know you will figure it out. I know that'll happen. Everybody is told something by their manager, by their agent, by a producer, and it messes with you. It's so funny because we recently talked about voice in a recent episode, and I remember a producer had said to me, made a comment about my voice in a script and was like, hey, I think you should trim out, like, kind of like I had dialogue that, or not dialogue, excuse me, in my description, it was my voice where I would kind of make little offhanded comments, and she was like, you got to take this out, you got to take this out. And I ended up kind of fighting her on it, but I ultimately took it out. I was like, all right, listen, I'm not going to lose sleep over this. If you're going to like be upset about this, you don't want to take the script out and send it to certain people because there's these lines in it, I will take it out if it's going to upset you this much. She's like, okay. And I remember taking it out, and guess what? I did lose sleep over it, and I still regret doing it because it's your voice. Yeah. It's one of those things, and I've thought about it since. You hear those comments, and you're like, oh my God, when am I just being too tongue-in-cheek to be too tongue-in-cheek in a script? But it's like, no. It's just these things kind of eat at you. It's just who you are. So my point being is just one comment about a second act, which is always very difficult, probably the most difficult part in a script. Don't let it throw you off. You're going to figure it out, and you're not a boring writer. I've read your scripts. That's impossible. I have read your scripts.
Act 2's not boring?
That's like telling like Clayton Kershaw he can't pitch. And you're like, but I've seen you pitch before. You can pitch. And he's like, no, I'm not good anymore.
All right, I feel so much better. Josh just compared me to Clayton Kershaw. Everything's fine. It's great. I fucking got it. I'll come off surgery. Sure, surgery sets me back, but hopefully I can come back. Best game of my life.
Listen, you're also, in your particular case, if you're sticking to certain material, it's not like you're coming up with it on your own. You're like being true to a story while putting your own spin on it.
Yeah, this particular thing was an IP.
Yeah, this is very difficult.
Yeah. You know, I once heard someone say on Instagram that they assigned this little voice a name, like Debbie.
Yeah.
And so whenever like Debbie, I hate the name, starts like to say something bad, you put Debbie in a corner.
Yeah, mine is Tasha.
I mean, little Tasha's dead now. She'll come back.
They always come back. But that is the voice that will take you down.
Yeah.
And you just have to be aware of it.
Thank you.
That's just advice for myself as well, by the way.
Yeah. I'll be here for you and it's your turn.
Well, I'll go right now. No, I'm just kidding.
All right. Thank you, Joshua. Our topic today is a mailbag episode. It's time to get into some questions that have been building in our inbox from our listeners. So I'm going to start with this first one. Josh doesn't know these questions, so I'm excited to hear his thoughts.
I'm excited.
All right. Question number 1 from listener Tim.
Yeah.
How often do you have your writers group give you notes on the same script? Do you just give them a few pages and then get notes and then give them a draft much later and then get notes? Do you give them every revision of your script that you have? Josh, what do you do?
Well, we're very fortunate, and I do not take our writers group for granted because we can basically resubmit the same script as often as we'd like, really. If you were to submit something 10 times, I'd read it 10 times. But I think the way that we come in, well, we all have, is we come in with very specific questions. So if I submit a script to you, like or in a recent writers group, I submitted something and I was like, I just need you to tell me how this is. Like, am I on course? This is not done. It's 40 pages, whatever. You guys gave me notes. I will then submit a longer draft of this script. We'll do it again, but every time that I do it, it will be with new questions and new notes and seeing what's working, what's not working until I feel like it's ready to send to my reps.
And you absolutely could send us, because you just sent us the first 40 pages. So you could finish the script, send it to us again, and just tell us, I didn't fix any of the notes that you had last time. The first 40 pages are untouched, but I want to get your feedback on like the whole thing now that it's done. Yeah, we put zero limits on anything. The only real rule is that if you feel like you need feedback, send it. That's it. End of story. And Josh's point is a good one, is that sometimes when we send something like in your 40-page example, and then you're going to send us the rest, it'd be like, hey guys, don't worry about the first 40 pages, but I have a lot of questions about how this ends. And then you can give specific questions. And we always kind of say, every note, we will hear every note, but I specifically would love to hear your thoughts about, how does it wrap up? Does the climax feel emotional? Stuff like that. And that can help especially when you get into those later stages of a draft where you're like, I know this and this is working, but I like really need to know if this last pass I did is really landing. Then you can just give your writers group some direction there. I say infinite submissions.
Infinite. I agree. I've heard that certain groups like basically don't let you keep, it's kind of like, hey, you've submitted this enough. Now it's time to like move on to the next thing. And I didn't know that until someone told me, and I think it's ridiculous. I mean, that's the whole point of writers group. At the point you have to like really fine tune a script and get it to a place where, you feel confident with it.
Of course. I wonder if the note behind the note is that person who's resubmitting is not changing enough to warrant a new read.
Yeah, maybe.
Or they're not being specific. They're not saying, hey, like a lot of this is not new, but this part I need some help with.
Right. That's why, that is why I think you need to be specific with what you're looking for. And by the way, with what you're looking for, I find always helps you as well to identify any gaps in your script.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes you just don't know, which is fine. But like other times when you've done a couple passes on it, you should probably have a good handle on like what you're trying to fine tune.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Okay, question number 2 from listener Jace. this listener is kind of talking about that tender stage where you're ready to get a manager, or you feel really ready to get a manager. You have scripts that you feel are ready to go, or you've at least completed scripts that you can finally like send out for queries. What do you do? How do you know? The first part of this question is, how do you know that your craft is at a place where it's ready, or you're ready to look for a manager? Josh, how do you feel like you know you're ready?
This is a very difficult question.
Yeah, it's very subjective.
It's very subjective. I remember starting and sending scripts out or asking people to have managers, like their friends, or can you pass this to a manager or whatever, or sending it to a manager, thinking I was ready. And then like reading that script a few years later and being like, I can't believe I sent that script to somebody.
Yeah.
Not in the worst way, but just kind of, but so I think it's just subjective, just feeling like you know what you're doing.
Yeah. I feel like you just fucking go for it, to be honest. Because especially if you're querying, like the worst they can do is say no. And then, okay, then I'll write a new script that's better because I learn every single day of my life. And that next script, I'll query people and that will be received as it is. So the fact that we're always improving, I think, tells us that we can sort of enter the stream at any time. I just say go for it. This person in particular had sent a query to a manager, and that manager had requested to read the script, which is great. That's a sign that your like little blurb that you sent was a concept that felt instantly interesting and unique enough for this manager to ask for the whole script. So, I mean, that tells you that your ideas are at least good. And then if you get feedback from this manager, please take those and improve, continue to improve your craft. But I don't think it's like you get one shot and that's it. You get multiple shots across your life. And I do think contests results are something that will help you know where you are and if you're good enough. Asking other people's feedback, if they really think you're not ready, allow yourself to be open to that so they feel comfortable telling you. But for me, like I was doing contests at the same time I was trying to get managers. And those were basically like two tools I had in my tool chest to try to get a manager, right? Because a lot of contests can result in at least getting on the radar of other managers. So it was all sort of part and parcel of the same process. I was also on the blacklist trying to get reviews from people so that my script on the blacklist was going higher and higher and higher in the ratings, so that it was increasingly being seen more. I was trying everything to get a manager, and I didn't know if I was ready, but I felt like I was ready, so I did it. So I just see if I could do it.
Yeah, just do it. Fuck it.
Just do it.
Can I just say one more thing about the just do it?
Please.
You might have just touched on this, but you're going to keep getting rejected forever and ever. You might as well just get rejected early.
Yeah. And by the way, I feel like if you submit to a manager and a query letter is literally like, here's the concept, would love for you to read it. And they're like, no, or they never respond back to you. You're like, okay, that's fine. I have a new concept now. And here's this. Like if you have that script ready to go, if you legitimately have written that script and you've honed that script and now you have a new script, I don't think that manager who saw your query letter come in last year and now sees a new query letter with a new idea is like, fuck this guy. Like, why he's bothering me. They're going to be like, oh, this guy is pumping out material. He has something new. And this is also really interesting. And I'm seeing what his, I guess what his genre is or what his brand is. Like, I think it can only help you. So long as it's different, right? You're not continually sending the same idea to the same person. But yeah, there's no reason to not go for it. We got to like take, and this will be in the next question too, but we got to like take our career by the balls, as it were, and just like fucking steer our way through. We are the CEO of our own company. And I feel like we have to stop asking for permission to do shit. We just got to do shit.
You just stuck an IV into my soul and injected it with something. That was great.
I felt like I was you for a second, like we'd switched bodies.
Fuck it, man. You know, as I always tell you, and I always remind myself, we're getting older, we're going to die. We might as well just fucking go for it.
I agree. All right, that applies to this next and last question from our listener, Paul. Not my husband, I swear. where he was asking about taking out pitches. He's currently taking out 2 different pitches with a production company. And he said he's getting different feedback from different executives, where some executives at this production company are like, absolutely do not write a spec pilot. Pitches only, because pitches will sell. Specs are much harder to sell because there's a smaller bullseye with which a spec can hit, meaning like a buyer might read your spec pilot and be like, this is not for me. It doesn't tick the boxes that I'm looking for, or it's not executed the way I want it to be executed, or a more petty reason that they may or may not consciously realize is I didn't have any say in developing this pilot. Therefore, I feel no ownership of it. Therefore, I don't want it. So that's the smaller bullseye this executive is talking about when he says like spec pilots are harder to sell and a pitch is easier, because if I pitch this same idea to someone, that person, that buyer may be like, oh, I'm imagining it in my head the way that I want to imagine it in my head, and I'm excited by it. And I can't wait to work on something like that with this writer who seems super cool in the room. And also you can tailor pitches, which I've done, to different buyers. So if I'm pitching to ABC Family, I want to take the violence down a bit, right? It's going to be a bit, I don't know, more PG rated. But then I go to pitch HBO and I'm like, this thing is fucking violent and we're going to lean into that shit because I can. It's the same idea and we're just taking out the blood. So that's another reason why pitches can be preferred over specs, because if I send ABC Family a script with a bunch of blood, they're going to say, no, it's too violent for us. That being said, the question is basically like, what do we think? Do we think that pitches are the way to go in either TV or film? This is for both. He's specifically talking about, he's having a TV experience right now, but he's asking about both. Are pitches the way to go or specs the way to go? And is it different between TV and film? I know Josh has a strong opinion about specs.
I do have a strong opinion about specs. I want to hear your opinion first, though.
My opinion, this is where rage starts to come in.
I know. That's
why it's related to what I just said about just fucking do it already. Because for me, anyways, it takes just as much time to put a pitch together as it would to write a pilot. Maybe not a feature film, but I could write like a pretty good detailed outline or a treatment of a feature film in the same time it takes me to figure out a pitch for something. And that's so much better time spent for me. Like in terms of the risk management, time risk management of that, like that makes more sense for me because
to write it.
Yeah, because I'm a strong writer. Shut up, little Tasha. I'm a strong writer, and and I can show them how the show or movie will function. I can add some voice in there that will show them like the tone of it that's really fun, and they can feel comforted by the command I have of the story if I write something, because that's what I am. I'm a writer. I'm not a pitcher. And then let's just say that you take the same amount of time to pitch something as you do to write something. And then you go and you pitch it and they say no. Well, if they said no to that, they're going to say no to the pilot that you wrote anyways. So it's like the same exact thing. You know what I mean? Like, I think executives give you this note, A, because they're afraid, because of this small bullseye fear that they have. And I think they think pitches are easier for writers. And that's just for some, like there's a small percentage where that's true. But I think for the bulk of people, it's just as much work as putting all this shit down on paper. So, and then let me just also insert stories I've been hearing lately of writers who are sort of taking the bull by the horns and deciding I'm not going to wait for you to choose me amongst a variety of people on an OWA pitch, or for me to take out a pitch and for you to choose me. I'm going to fucking write it. I'm going to fucking write the first episode, maybe even the second episode. Here's a series document, take it or leave it. This is how awesome the show is. And one story in particular that a producer told me was a writer did this. His career had been stalling. He wasn't getting big jobs. He wasn't getting anything in the field that he wanted to be. And he could see basically the end of the road. And so everyone is saying no to him. And he just wrote the first 2 episodes and a series Bible or treatment, like I'm saying. And he sold it as people could see how it functioned. And now he's a showrunner of like multiple shows. And he's considered a big time showrunner. And there was another story a writer told me of a writer who went up for an OWA And there were, let's just say, 6 other writers. It was definitely a pitch off. And he was like, listen, I can write really fast. I'm just going to write this thing. I'm just going to write what I pitched because I know what the movie is in my head. I'm going to write it and I'm going to send it to them. And it's for free. Like, they could say no. What that does, and I'm not going to recommend this path, by the way, for everything, but for this particular writer, he knew so hard what the movie would be, and he didn't want to wait for the process to play itself out. So he just wrote the script and sent it in. And of course, from the buyer's point of view, it's like, well, I have 5 other writers who I could develop a pitch with and like maybe hire that 5th writer and develop the story with and get a script in like a year from now. Or I have a script right here and I could just give notes on this. I'm going to buy this. And sure enough, this writer got the job. And that's just an example of how I think writers can really take control of their decisions that they're making and this process and stop relying on producers telling us what we should be doing in order to get a job. I'm going to stop because I could just go on forever. But that to me is sort of how I feel. I will have a caveat to this, which is that some projects, a pitch might be better. For some projects, you don't want to write your crazy, huge, high fantasy pilot that's going to scare the shit out of people that isn't particularly practical. I think you want to pitch that. You want to get people excited about how big the show could be and then how you're going to execute it, and let them sort of decide. But sending HBO a giant dragon show might be a little scary. And also pitching in a room can allow you to have a conversation about like, this is how I see the pilot. And I know there's dragons in this pilot, but there's also a version where we don't see the dragon until episode 7. And it's more like you can have that conversation more than you kind of can have in text. So not that that's the only example, but there are instances where I think a verbal pitch can work and maybe even be quicker sometimes. But that's the point. It's like a case by case basis. It's not a blanket statement of pitches, no specs. It is a case by case basis.
Yeah, I agree. It is a case by case basis because as you were saying that, I was like, well, like saying the first part, which I completely agree on. If there's something you feel like so well and you can write it, I believe you just write it. Like that is, there's one thing if you just have kind of a general idea, you're like, oh, it's these 2 people who, get in over their head in the Amazon. And you're like, I don't know the story.
Yeah, I can pitch that better because there's so many holes in it that right. I don't know what those are. So that's better as a pitch. Yeah.
Right. But if you have this idea and you're like, I can just see this thing. I know what this story is. I know what the pilot is. Then I say, you just go for it.
Yeah.
But if it's a big idea that requires a lot of money or feels big, that you have to kind of explain why it's not big because you see the creature in episode 7, then you pitch it.
Maybe you pitch it. Yeah. There's a bunch of instances where pitching makes the most sense. This is different. He's talking about taking out original ideas. I also think if you've pitched original ideas a bunch and everyone has said no, and you really still believe in it, you could let it go and work on the next thing. Absolutely, that's super valid. But if you can't get this idea out of your head and you would regret your entire life not trying it, then another version is you write it and then go again.
Yeah.
Because then people, oh, that's how this works. Oh, I see. It's not, you don't see the full dragon in the pilot. You just see a shadow. Okay. All right. I get it now. So yeah, there's a bunch of different versions. And I think the takeaway in terms of the answer to this question is there's no blanket statement that pitches over specs works. I think you take it job by job and also this is for me. My voice is rising because I'm saying this to myself in this angry way of stop looking to producers and agents as your boss who knows everything. They have information that can be helpful to you, but you're all driving this ship and you're the captain of it. Okay, I'm off my high horse now. This question fired me up. When I wrote back to Paul, I was also fired up. So Paul, I apologize, but I'm really passionate about this topic.
As you should be. I talked to a producer a little while ago who made a comment about the short stories that are selling. Mm-hmm. And he was kind of like, because you'll see every once in a while, our boy Scott Glassgold.
Scott Glassgold. Mm-hmm.
He will sell things and it's like, the producer was passionate in a way. He was like, are these just pitches? Like, are these short stories just pitches? Because where are they being published? Like, it's not like some published IP. It's really just a pitch that you're sending to somebody to get the idea, which it's almost like writing a pilot or writing the feature version, but it's just like, it's like a new way to pitch something. And I'm just only bringing this up because I've thought about it. I'm like, is a short story just the potential of an idea?
I think it absolutely can be. I've had this exact conversation last week with a bunch of writers. And when I had a touch base meeting with my reps this month, when I was telling them, look, I have all these ideas, like, can we start to meet at various places? Their response was, yes, absolutely. But why don't you write a one-pager on these ideas that you love so there's something tangible that someone can read, so that when you go into these meetings, it's not necessarily just a general like, hey, how are you? How's traffic? And what's your story? It's that, but it's also, here's some ideas. Are they interesting to you? No? Okay, well, at least you know where like my lane is and where I like to operate. And maybe you'll think of me for other stuff. But if you do like it, like, here it is. It's in a one-pager. It's right in front of your face. You can see how it's structured. You can see what the tone is. And you can see its potential. And that to me was both obvious and like this genius idea that I'm now doing that. So I am putting together one-pagers. And when I say one-pager, they're more like, I don't know,
like 11?
2 to 3. Fuck you. These little one-pagers of these ideas that have just been sitting in my folders that are either full scripts or that are not ready to be fully seen, that really need some revision, but that I know what that story is, or they're ideas that I've hatched and can easily kind of put in a pitch story within 1 to 3 pages. And that's what's going to go out. And is it a short story? Not exactly. It's not like a prose story, though the one-pager should and can be very stylistic. So it is showing, again, the tone and the fun of what that individual story is and your ability to write it. So I'm kind of, I'll tell you how it goes by the end of this year, but I'm a big proponent of this because writing is where I get excited and where I'm good at. I'm less good at getting into a meeting and just like talking about, I don't know, whatever. I don't like talking, which is ironic because we have a podcast, but I like talking to you.
Thank you. I like talking to you as well. I feel like this is where we get it all off our chest.
Yeah.
But also the last thing I'll say is if someone feels different. I feel, everyone knows, you know this, I feel very strongly about specs. Like this year in particular, I was like, Tasha, I'm just writing specs.
This is your spec year.
Any idea, I'm just going to write it.
We are almost due for like a mid-year check-in. We kind of did that a while ago, but I feel like we've furthered along our goals.
Well, we should do a mid-year check-in mainly because I saw something on the news source Instagram that said we are now officially closer to Christmas than we are to last year.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we're 6 months away from Christmas, or 5.5 or whatever.
Time is real.
Time is real. And I was like, oh man, we're closing in. So the year's like done.
It's basically over. Start Christmas shopping now. Then yes, we're due for mid-year goal check-in, and you guys as well out there, check in with yourselves, with your writers groups if you have them, about your own goals, for goal buddies if you made them at the top of the year like we all suggested, and see where you are with them. And I think more practically, as we'll talk about on that check-in episode, is how can you be practical about making sure the second half of the year is really treating you well and that you are, taking control of those goals and getting closer to them. Okay, quote of the day. Writing to me is simply thinking through my fingers. Isaac Asimov. Please remember to rate and subscribe. Follow us at ActTwoWriters for more awesome writing stuff. You can follow me, Tasha, at Story Thursday on Instagram or on Twitter at Tasha 3.0.
I'm Josh Hallman on Instagram, Joshua Hallman on X.
And as always, the Act 2 podcast is a production of Act 2, a network and support group for the everyday working screenwriter. This episode was edited by Paul Lundquist.